Look, I understand, but I need you to be quiet for a moment. I have had a very, very long day. Yes, I'll explain soon. But I don't have time for this, okay? I just watched everything I worked towards. Decades, I mind you, decades of work be demolished. Mere moments by a psychopathic idiot who has a little too many emotions locked in her brain. All the things I worked towards, all of my hopes and aspirations of finally free from this dreaded curse, is now squarely on the shoulders of a bunch of kids who are busy licking their wounds and crying for their mommies right now. I am beyond annoyed. I am beyond upset. Everything has been set back. Everything is falling apart, and I'm left with these idiots to help me. Gods, it's going to be a very long journey for the both of us, I assure you, if this is all we have to look forward to. Sorry, I wasn't fast enough.
Dim, you shouldn't have. I wasn't worth it. You shouldn't suffer.
Wish, run.
Wit, you shouldn't have come. She was after me. You shouldn't have gotten hurt.
Just don't stop being you. Don't stop following your heart.
Pan, you saved us. But at what cost? I can't lose everything. Not even my healing could do anything. I was worthless to them. To all of them. I couldn't stop Aaron's semblance. Dim wouldn't wake up. Wit looked at me. He spoke to me. Asked me to help Aaron, but what could I do? What could I do? Wit, you had more faith in me than I did. I woke up in the hospital with no one but my mother beside me. For once, she was acting like a mother towards me, which was probably why it was so easy to convince me to go home with her. For a month, I was complacent in my old house. I hid the lantern. I couldn't even think about them without breaking down with guilt and grief. Hiding anything didn't stop the nightmares. I had to find something to distract myself, which turned to late nights on the roof, listening to music I used to like. Dim came to me. I didn't know where she was staying and was worried for her, which led me to accepting her future visits at least once a week. Shortly after she came the first time, Domino did as well. Though Domino isn't very stealthy. There was almost a fight in front of the house before I convinced my mom to let her in. She caught me up on what was happening with everyone else. Emerald was staying with Cerise and Klein. Elijah left. Aaron was recovering, and Wit? No one knew. He was dead. I was sure of it, and it hit me like a sack of bricks. There has to be something I could have done. Dim tried to distract me from it all. Talk of dust, my old theories, pushing me to bring my lantern to our nightly visits. It never stopped the nightmares, but it worked as a temporary distraction. I grew into practicing, training all over again. When I was listening to music, I was also working on my dust. All in secret, of course. I couldn't bring myself to think of going back. Not until I snapped at Dim. The next step has to be taken by you. I mulled it over far longer than I should have. Then I made the decision to escape my house. It had brought nothing but torment and memories, and I couldn't stand the thought I was choosing that, abandoning my friends over being with them. Escaping wasn't easy. I had chosen a specific day when Domino would be around. She hid me in the truck, no questions asked, and lied through her teeth to my mother's guards about my whereabouts. Her company backed her, likely not knowing I was a stowaway on their truck. It was a long, boring journey to the town Domino had been staying at. I couldn't believe how stupid I was. How ridiculous it was I would turn on my mother like that. But the moment I stepped out, I couldn't help but smile. Domino was there. I knew the others were nearby. This felt right. Let's go see Aaron.
I don't accept charity. I don't take pity. I came to Vale to make my own way in the world, to be a new person and pursue my future no matter what. That is still what I intend to do. Shortly after the destruction of the academy, after our recovery in the hospital, we spent time in a shelter, each pondering our next move. Whit had been transferred, Wish went home to his mother, Cerise and Klein went to stay in Cerise's newfound mansion, and Aaron was placed in intensive care. Emerald, Elijah, and I, the faunuses who were less than blessed, were left with nowhere to go. Emerald didn't seem to have a problem with mooching off of Cerise's amenities, but that just didn't sit right with me. I had still done Cerise so much wrong that I couldn't bring myself to ask her for help. Elijah expressed his desire to return to Menagerie, but that wasn't an option for me. I came here to make my own way, not risk my life to get across the border out of newly occupied Vale into the shithole that had always been my home continent. Well, in the meantime, I spent the majority of my time keeping an eye on Aaron's recovery. While we all blamed ourselves to different extents and with different ways of making up for it, I decided it was the very least I could do to help him recover. I had warned him against training with Icarus, but hadn't been persistent enough. I had tried to save him from Madeline, but I was too late to negate the damages. I can't count the times I fell asleep at the hospital that first month, hoping for some improvement. During this time, I let myself slack off. Not even a solid workout made me feel any better, and my naturally chubby body started to return. Funnily enough, that's when I finally found a job that would take a faunus. The Grim just continued to get worse, especially as anxieties about the Bloodfang increased. This meant transports needed guards, and though they were still hesitant about letting one faunus protect them from others, a guard was a guard. Generally, I still preferred to stay in the area of Vale. When business brought me near the city, I would visit Wish, and when it brought me back home, I would check on Aaron. The others simply slipped out of my contact. Elijah disappeared to who knows where. Last I heard, Whit was still in some other hospital. Cerise, Klein, and Emerald were taking shelter while finding a way to get to Vacuo. Maybe I'll meet up with my team. Maybe someone else will deal with the Bloodfang. Maybe they'll find a more reasonable way to get their message across. Maybe none of this really matters and the Grim will finally finish us off, faunus and humans alike. I'm starting to understand why Elijah said so often that we're all fucked. All those maybes hardly matter, though. I've made my promises. I promised Aaron I'd help him get stronger. I've stayed by his side this whole time. I promised to keep Wish safe and from doing something stupid, and staying with his mom seems dumber than breaking out. I don't know what he's planning, but I can't let him do it alone.
After being discharged from the hospital, I thought of my last interaction with Leo and Pan. I was able to make enough sense of everything that had happened to realize that Leo and Pan weren't dead, and that they wouldn't give Madeline what they wanted. Or maybe I was just clinging onto a faint hope to keep moving. I then met up with Klein, Domino, Emerald, and Elijah in the shelter. They brought news of Wish's recovery and subsequent return to his house. Elijah escaped from the shelter in the dead of night, with plans to return to Menagerie. 2 days later, everyone was allowed to leave. Our first visit was to the hospital, where we learned of Whit's confusing transfer to a separate institution. I immediately feared the worst, but eventually leveled my head. It was until I saw the state of Aaron. I shut down when I realized what he, Whit, Wish, and Domino had to go through without me. I was lost in my head until we were walking down a street away from the hospital. Apparently, Jet had replaced Domino in our group. I then brought them all to Leo's home out on the edge of town. I took in Klein, Emerald, and Jet, letting them stay with me until they figured out what to do. I wanted to save all of my family, despite what Leo had told me. The first thing I needed to do was find Cedar in Vacuo. And maybe somewhere along the way, at least I hoped, we could find the new Icarus. His information would be key in the success to rescue Leo and Pan. Eventually, I was able to dictate my plan to get Cedar back. And after failing to find a way to Vacuo through normal means, we started preparing to walk there. It took us 6 months until we felt that our preparation was enough. Now we're ready to leave, although we might be forced to change our plans.
after leaving the hospital, I went to live with Cerise, Emerald, and Jet, fully reuniting Team Ketchup, with me as the leader, of course. It was at that house that I would keep on training with everyone to fully complete my mission. I knew I'm just a bodyguard till, like, Leo gets back and everything, but at least I'm doing it with my friends. We had a lot of misadventures at the house, like, when we first got there, we were sent into this guest room, Jed and I, and, there was only one bed, so I decided to slice the bed in half, but Cerise came in and stopped me for some reason, so I kind of got sent to the ground a lot faster than I'd like to admit. Wasn't my best moment, but Cerise did buy me a new mattress on it, so now there's just a mattress on the floor in there. Other than that, it's just a lot of training. I gotta get stronger. I have to find Leo, I gotta protect Cerise, I gotta do everything I can. But what's really cool is I managed to kind of hone my semblance a little bit throughout all the training. Soul's a lot stronger, and I'm a lot better at hovering, so that's pretty cool. Other than that, I think I've just been hanging out with Jet and training. I'm determined to kind of help Jet find his own way through the world, and not just be this blood-fang killer he was meant to be. I'm pretty sure it's working. We kind of created an unbreakable bond from all the talking, training, eating over the past 6 months. He doesn't talk a lot, it's mainly me. Cerise and Emerald, it's about the same, just a lot more training. Cerise upgraded her weapon, so I decided to try to help her get better with it. And trying to make up for Wit not being here, I guess. Trying to help her with her shortcomings. Because I guess I'm the best fighter here. It didn't really work out super well, though, because there's times where I just kind of, like, get absorbed in the fight and kind of just destroy Cerise. But, yeah, that's me. That's Klein.
Back to nothing. I guess it wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. It had been a few years since I've been alone, so I was terrified it would hurt like hell. It still hurts, don't get me wrong, but it's a dull pain. More like a constant heartburn than someone taking a flamethrower, or one of Klein's bolts, to your heart. Now, I know what you must be thinking. Why are you alone, Dem? What happened to Roman and Madeline? Well, when you do something stupid like refuse to attack a group of Pharaoh students, actively trying to stop and maybe kill your friends, you tend to lose favor. That on top of jumping in front of your boss's blade, for some innocent kid, just put the final nail in the coffin. I ran away from Wish when I woke up. I felt kind of bad just bailing on him, but I didn't belong with people like him. I wasn't even sure why I was on that ship. Where I belonged was with the Bloodfang. I was a sneaky, devious spy to a big, scary woman, not some cheesy hero that hangs with a kid who thinks everything can be solved by just talking. My place was on the other side of the war. I should have realized that to begin with. I wish I realized that to begin with, because it was too late by the time I went back to our hideout. There wasn't anything or anyone left for me there. Well, correction. There was one thing. The little wolf plushie I got Roman at the festival. He left it for me in my room. I wasn't sure if he left it as a comforting reminder that we were still friends, or some harsh rejection of my feelings. Either way, that bastard needs to work on his social skills, because that plushie left me in a mess of tears. They left me alone and crying. I fell asleep that night, crying like a little girl on the floor, hoping for my friends to come back to me. Fuck you, Roman. I knew looking for them was useless. If they wanted to talk to me, they'd find me. They were the only people in the world who could find me, who knew I even existed. Well, I guess that's a lie now. There's Wish now. He's the first human who took the time and energy to fight off my Forgotten. He's the first human to do something kind to me. First human who looked at me like a normal person. I'm embarrassed it happened, but I actually dreamed about being in a team with that guy. It was a silly thought. Me, fond as everyone forgot about it, actually being on a team. It wasn't my style. Plus, they would never accept the Bloodfang after what we did to them. It was a stupid thought, so why did I spend the next few months stalking Cerise and Domino and the others to find Wish? Why did I feel jealous when I saw Jet with them? He was suddenly a part of the team. Why did I spend so much time looking for Wish? Why did my chest hurt when I found him broken and alone like me? Why did I try my hardest to make him feel better? Why did I buy, or more like stole, a flail to match my whip? Why did I let him convince me that I could join his team? Why did I want to be a part of his team? Why am I pretending like I can actually belong with these people? I'm just the faunus everyone forgets about. How many times do I need to go back? How many times do I need to run to her before I'm fast enough? How many Grimm do I need to kill before I protect her? I was trapped in that day, what felt like an eternity. I thought I was finally pulling away from that memory. I thought I could finally start healing the scar. But here I was, chained to this painful day. I lost count how many times I've heard that first scream, a warning too late of what was to come. I've run out of words to describe the pain in my stomach when I watched my friends and family of my small town fall to the Grimm that swarmed us. I've forgotten how many times I've cried for help, still expecting some huntsman to swoop in and save the day. It was a cycle of misery that wouldn't seem to end. I never stopped trying to end it though. Without fail, I always ran back to that bloodshed. I ran before my fear could stop me. I ran before my brain could think. I ran before my mother's screams could bring me back to reason. I could never stand the sight of someone hurt, let alone dying. My blood was boiling with rage at the Grimm, and I had to do something. That's why every time I played through that day, I always found my bare fist buried into the skull of that saber. I always felt my rage explode out of my fist and into the body of that Grimm. I always saw that I had the power to stop them, that I was the only one who could. I fought hard every time. I pushed myself to my limits every time I went back. Tried to push harder and ignore my pain. I tried to be strong enough to stop all the Grimm. I wanted to save everyone. I was the only one who could. I was weak though. I was too slow to get all the Grimm in time. I was too weak to stop the phantom snake from devouring my mother. I wasn't strong enough to be the hero everyone needed. The hero she needed. No matter how hard I fought, I always collapsed right before I got to her. Just a few more feet and I could have done something. Anything to save her. I was too weak though. I'm always too weak. In between the cycles, I can see her waiting for me to get up. She looks so worried when she stares at me. I wish I could take that worry off her face. My body would just respond to me. I would get up and hug her, or do something. Something to make that look go away. I'm sorry, Domino. I'll get strong enough to get up again. I'll get strong enough to make you not worry. I'll be strong enough to make sure no one dies again. I failed my mother. I failed Ikros. I won't fail you.
After receiving grievous wounds from Madeline, Whit fell into a coma for 3 months. In his coma, he was tormented by nightmares and visions, and for a short while the doctors watching over him debated over appropriate treatment. Whit's odd medical record made it quite difficult to take care of him. Most of that information was confidential to all but the highest-ranking officials and the doctors who worked on Project Lego. It would take some time before anyone with the clearance arrived at Vale to watch over Whit. Once the doctors arrived, Whit was in good hands. When he finally awoke, he was given a full briefing on the situation at hand. Atlas was struggling to regain control of Vale. The waves of Grimm appeared endless and the Bloodfang held strong. He was to join Ikvod's squad and assist them with their missions. Before his reassignment, he was given his new weapon, one he was far more comfortable with than the family relic. It switched between a greatsword form and a longsword and shield form. In the greatsword form, it could transform further into a shotgun. This was Whit's true weapon of choice. He was given a week to recuperate and recover before being sent into the fray. For 3 months, he helped Ikvod's squad when requested, defending critical positions and repelling the Bloodfang, hunting dangerous Grimm, and rescuing any civilians. When he wasn't helping Ikvod, he wandered the ruined streets of Vale. His mind often wandered to his friends. What were they doing right now? Were they safe?
You don't have time for that now. You were so lucky to have Cerise take care of you. She's such a nice person. She's always been like that ever since you met her. Cerise gave you a place to stay, and you had nowhere else to go. You could have had a place to lay your head if you weren't always so responsible. Constantly give your money away, the first sorry soul you see, Before long, you're broke again. Honestly, I can't believe how dumb you can be sometimes. You can't be an airhead now, though. You need to show how much you appreciate her kindness. So clean, cook, be a good friend. She's going through a lot. Everyone in the house is going through a lot. You need to stop thinking like that and do what you can to help them feel better. You need to be stronger than that. You're the lucky one in this situation. Cerise lost her family. Klein lost his mentor. Aaron lost his arm. Domino almost lost Aaron. Wish lost his aunt. And Wit's still lost in his mind, if even still alive. You're the lucky one here, Emerald. So bite your tongue and be there for them. Show Cerise how you maneuver through the wilderness to avoid detection. Help Klein adjust Jet to what it's like to have real friends. Be the person people can lean on. Make sure you go check up on Aaron and Domino, too. You gotta be a good friend, Emerald. You gotta stay strong. Be helpful. Don't go back there. Mom is gone now, Emerald. Stop slipping back to those days. Just because things feel so similar doesn't mean you can slip back into that mindset. You promised her you keep smiling. You promised to stay lighthearted like the wind. You need to be there for them. Cerise is still trying to get to her brother, and you need to help her do that. You know too well what it's like to be without family. Be a good friend, Emerald. You got off easy. You need to stop being selfish and help your friends who need you. You know all of this. You know what you need to do. So why can't you stop crying? He never had this before. He never had this twisted pain in his stomach. It wasn't starvation, no. That was a feeling he was all too used to in that hole. It wasn't some poison coursing through his veins or nasty stab wound either. Those were pains he was used to, injuries and ailments he could fix. Now the pain he was feeling was new. He figured it must have been grief, but he couldn't understand why he was feeling it. His entire life he only cared about himself. He was forced to only care about himself. He didn't think he could feel so hurt from someone else. But here he was. Grief crashed into him like a nevermore at full speed as he watched Aaron and Wade go down. He saw his body as so slow and useless when he could do nothing but watch the enemy protect his leader. He let a Bloodfang do the one task he swore to himself he'd always do. Elijah thought that hole was rock bottom, but in that moment, he felt like he fell deeper into despair. His pride was shattered, and his promise had faded away. That fight reminded him clearly of who he was and why he came to Pharos to begin with. He swore he'd be someone who would protect people from harm, a strong defender who could protect others from the horrid things that happened to him. He wasn't there to play family with a group of kids and pretend to be a team player. He wasn't there to make friends and learn to ignore the horrors of the world. He was there to be a huntsman. He was there to be someone strong enough to protect and defend. He was a guardian, not a buddy. Being around these people only made him soft and caused him more pain. Elijah knew he needed to get stronger. He needed to return to his original purpose. So he left. Wish would have no use for someone as weak as he was right now. He was better off leaving and training to be the guardian he set out to be. The Bloodfang may have slowed down those plans, but he wouldn't let them stop them. He was going to go back home and be the protector he promised that town he'd be. He'd fight off any Grim, Atlas soldiers, or Bloodfang that tried to get in his way. He left while everything was still in chaos. Grief still lashed out at him for leaving behind these kids, but he didn't let it stop him. He tried the whole warm, fuzzy team thing, and he failed at it. It was time for Elijah to return to his roots. So he turned his back on them and left, hoping that if he ever crossed paths with this group again, he'd grown strong enough to protect anyone he wanted to. These last 6 months just felt like a dream. A bad dream that I can't wake up from. Ever since Vale fell, ever since Akros died, ever since I found Wit in that coma, it just felt like a terrible dream. My head felt heavy and foggy, like someone had filled it with gas. It was hard to lead my squad, hard to protect enemy movements, even harder to use my semblance. My body felt so foreign to me, like a puppet I was controlling with strings. I was sent to several doctors, no one could figure out what was wrong with me. I didn't let that stop me though. I wouldn't let it. I was needed on the battlefield. I was needed to help bring control back to Vale. I was going to bring peace. That's always been my goal in life. Finally bring peace to this violent world. I learned to ignore the dreamlike state I was in. After a while, it either went away, or I learned to live with it. Things got easier when Wit came too. It was a lot easier commanding a soldier who could hold their own in battle without me spoon-feeding them every single action to take. It was still a hard-fought battle, with trying to destroy 2 enemies at once, but I had confidence. I had faith Atlas had the power to do it. There was one thing Atlas had, it was power. It had sacrificed too much not to have that. Before I knew it, 6 months had passed, and it looked like we were making some real progress in regaining control of Vale. I was more hopeful than I've been in a while, so, of course, that was perfect time for life to throw another screwball at me. Hello, my name is Icarus. I believe we've met before.